off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Well, joining us from New Jersey to speak about this a bit more is the author of Hidden History of Zionism, Ralph Schoenman. Mr. Schoenman, as always, many thanks for joining us here on Press TV. Now, 620 more settlements on Palestinian territory. What we see here again is Israeli actions at odds with the U.S.'s verbal stances. But the U.S. still pledging support for the Israelis. A bit of deja vu, isn't it?
Yes, it's the constant and repeated formula. Every time there is rhetoric about a so-called peace settlement, which is I like to explain has nothing to do with peace and everything to do with pacification. By pacification, I mean the Palestinians expected to accept a territory without the entitlement to their own army, carved up into little areas separated by roads maintained by Israeli military. Basically a Bantustan makes the Bantustans look generous by comparison, and that is what they're talking about by way of a so-called peace formulation. It has nothing to do with peace. It's about pacifying the Palestinian people as their expulsion is organized. That's what these settlements represent. All factions of the Israeli Zionist state talk about this as creating facts on the ground. And those facts on the ground reflect very carefully what was laid out in 1947 by the Jewish Agency before the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine, which was actually carving up Palestine over the heads of the Palestinian people, offering the Zionists 55% of the most fertile land. And at that time, Rabbi Fishbaum, on behalf of the Jewish Agency, presented a map of what was called Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. The land of Israel, according to this map, which is based upon the second volume of the Diaries of Theodor Herzl, called the land of Israel, all of Palestine, all of Lebanon, all of Cisjordan, Arabia up, one-third of Arabia, Egypt up to the Nile, including Cairo, one-half of Iraq, two-thirds of Syria, the southern tier of Turkey, and Kuwait. That was the formal representation of the Zionist movement through the Jewish Agency before the United Nations in 1947, Eretz Israel. That is reflected in the politics and the policies of the Israeli state ever since, founded upon the expulsion through massacre of 800,000 people out of a total population of 950,000, with 475 Palestinian towns and villages seized, 385 reduced to rubble, wiped off the map, and the 90 remaining having their land confiscated. That's the reality. That's the nature of the Zionist state. And every single regime continues the expansion of these settlements, the removal of the Palestinian population from the land, their further subjugation. It's a ridiculous suggestion that this has anything to do with the aspirations of peace in the region. On the contrary, it's the aspiration of total subjugation. And the United States and Obama represent the facilitation of this project.
Right.
Who finances the Israeli state? Who arms them?
Right. Mr. Schoenman, you just spoke about the creation of facts on the ground. How does Obama's new Middle East policy come into play in the light of this?
What the Obama policy does is to create a Farrago of fiction, namely supposed negotiations back and forth between a Palestinian representation that has no connection to the Palestinian people and is basically run by the Central Intelligence Agency, on the one hand, and then country-selling regimes throughout the region under challenge now from the peoples of the entire area. That's what these revolutions are about, getting rid of these country-selling regimes that have been in alliance with the Zionist state, have been subordinate to imperialism, and which are based upon the total suppression of the populations of each country respectively, from Tunisia to Algeria to Egypt to Jordan to Yemen to Bahrain to Lebanon, and indeed throughout the region. That's the project, and the Zionist state basically is the hit squad of U.S. imperialism for this purpose. That's why all of this rhetoric is just designed to delay and stall and demobilize. All of this is by way of preventing people from acting in their own name, as they have in Egypt, as they are throughout the region, as we will see occurring in Palestine itself. What I would like to see happen, if you don't mind my saying this, is the mobilization of the entire Palestinian diaspora in a great march emulating the Salt March of Gandhi, a great peaceful march with international figures in the forefront, marching to the borders of Palestine while the population inside mobilizes and says, "Welcome home," and the people coming say, "We are coming home." The mobilization of the Palestinian people and their supporters throughout the region and the world is the only effective way to begin the process of eliminating the Zionist state and replacing it with a society based upon the rights of people not dependent on their ethnicity or their religious affiliation. As long as there's a Zionist state and imperialism supports it, we will continue to see more settlements and more subjugation and more horrible penalties and genocidal politics as we've seen unfold against the people in Gaza.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm afraid we have run out of time. That was the author of Hidden History of Zionism, Ralph Schoenman, speaking to us from New Jersey. Mr. Schoenman, many thanks for your insights here on Press TV.